So hello everyone, let's start with the second part of our lecture this week, continuing with the exception handling. So the second part we are going to talk about throwing exceptions in the methods. So throwing exception in the methods, that means we are going to talk about throw and a throws keyword. In the last lecture we talked about try, catch and the finally keyword. So in this lecture we are going to talk about throw and throws. Okay, so let's start with these two keywords. In the last lecture we talked about predefined exceptions, which are arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, array index out of bound exceptions, which are defined in our exception handling with Java. So exceptions are already there, they are set to trigger on predefined conditions. Next, we can create our own user-defined exceptions, or we call it as the custom exceptions. So we can create our own exception class and throw the exception using the throw keyword. User-defined exception. Now, when we are making our own exception, it must extend the exception class, because we have learned that exception class is the superclass of all the runtime exception classes. So it must inherit the exception class so that our exception class becomes a part of the exception hierarchy. And after creating our own exception, that exception can be thrown by using the throw keyword. So we have two keywords, throw keyword and the throws keyword. We will shortly learn the difference between these two keywords, but our own exception will be thrown by using the throw keyword. So if we have the throw keyword, what is the use of having the throws keyword when you can handle using the try and catch block? Now there can be many methods I'm talking about methods now, that can cause exceptions. So in that case it will be very difficult, or it will take a lot of effort to write try catch block for each of the methods, and our code will become very long and less readable. So one way to overcome this problem is by using the throws keyword. So declare the exception in the method signature using the throws keyword and handle the exception whenever you are calling the method. So basically throws keyword is used with the method signature, because when we know that this method may throw a certain kind of exception, and then the exception will be handled when we are calling the method by using a try catch block. So let's learn some differences between throw and throws keyword. Exception is thrown explicitly, it is used. So throw is followed by an instance of the exception class, but it should appear inside the method body or inside some statements. So throw new arithmetic, we use the operator new here also. Throw new and the instance of the exception class, and in the brackets we write some string message. Throws is used to declare an exception. It works very similar to the try catch block. So throws is followed by the exception name only. So we just write the name of the exception. And throws is used with the method signature to declare the exceptions that can occur in the statements present in the method. So here is the difference between throw and throws. If you see over here, throw is used in the method body to throw an exception, whereas throws is used with the method signature whenever we are declaring the method. So if you see over here, throws, this is a method sample, and here we are using the throws keyword followed by the type of exception that can occur in my method. And throw keyword is used in the method body. So it is followed by throw, followed by new keyword, followed by the exception class, and inside the bracket we provide the string message that should appear. So this is the main difference. Throw is used in the method body, whereas throws keyword is used with the method signature. Another difference is throw keyword can throw only one exception at a time, whereas throw can handle multiple exceptions at a time. So for example, throw new arithmetic exception, and in the bracket we provide the string message, Whereas with the throws keyword, we can handle multiple exceptions which are separated by the comma. So this is also one of the most important difference. Alright, so if you see over here, there is an example between the throw and throws example. So throw is used in the method body, whereas throws is used in the method signature. So if we use throws in the method signature, we can use the throw in the method body to catch that exception. Alright, so for example, I have a program over here. Anyways, I have more programs. So for example, we are taking a input from the user to check whether the person is eligible for voting or not. So in the method, what we have used throw new age arithmetic exception, because if age is less than 18, there should be an arithmetic exception because it is not eligible for voting. But if the age is greater than 18, then the person should be eligible for voting. So now when I am calling the method, I have passed an integer variable over here. So now what will happen when we call this method? When this method is called, now what is the value of age? Age is 13. So the value of age is 13. So what will happen over here? Throw new arithmetic exception. So it will throw this exception and it will print not eligible for voting, and then it will show us the error line numbers, and the last line, which is the end of the program, it will not be executed. Again, we have the example for the throws also over here. So throws is used with the method signature. So we are trying to divide two numbers, and then we are returning the quotient of the number. So we have made the object, and then we are calling this method in the try block 15 divided by 0. So when we have called this method, when this method is called, A is 15 and B is 0. So it is 15 divided by 0. Now the error occurs over here. So this line will not be executed. Control will go to the catch block and it will print, you should not divide the number by 0. So throws keyword is used with the method signature, whereas throw can be used with the method body. User defined exception I am going to talk about in a while. First of all, I have a program created by myself to explain you more about throw and throw keywords. So this is a program. For example, I have created a class method exception over here, and I have a method age method. It's a void method and it takes one parameter of integer type, and it throws two types of exceptions, arithmetic exception and exception. This is what I explained in the slide, that you can it can handle multiple exceptions. So for example, over here we talked about that it can handle multiple exceptions. So not here, okay, here. So it can handle multiple exceptions. So this is what I have shown in my program. So if the age is less than 0, arithmetic exception will be thrown, and this is the message that will be printed. But if the age is greater than 110, so exception class will be thrown, exception will be thrown. It's not a real age. Otherwise, if the age is not a negative number and it's not greater than 110, then it's a good age. So what I have done in this, I have created in the try block, I have created a object of my exception class and method exception class, and I am taking the input from the user. So I am calling this method. So based on this, it will be printed. Now I have used two catch blocks, because one for the arithmetic and another for the exception. So let's just try to do it and understand it, understand the execution of the program. So let me just try to work with, first of all, a negative number. Alright, so let me try to enter -1. Since it's a negative number, so what will happen when it goes over here? Throw new arithmetic exception. So arithmetic exception will be, because it's less than 0, so arithmetic exception will be thrown over here. Then the control will be passed to the catch block. It will print not correct negative age. Next I have e.get message, because it's e object of the arithmetic exception type. So it will go back to this throw statement and this message will be printed, age should not be negative. Let's check it. And after this catch block will be ignored and no other statement will be printed except the statement which is end of the program. So let's just check it. So not correct, negative age should not be negative, e.get message, age should not be negative, and over here then end of the program. Now if you see in the second exception catch block, I have used toString method. So toString is used for the string representation of the object. Now let's see what it will print. It will actually print the class of the error. Alright, so this will be handled when I have the age of a person greater than 110. So let's check. Let's try to enter something like 111. Now what should be done? So when this method is called, it will go over here. This is 111. It is not less than 0. Okay. It is greater than 110. So throw new exception. So that means this catch block will be executed. So system.out.println not real age, it will be printed. Then system.out.println e.toString. So object of the exception class, that means my control will go over here. It will print the class something like java.lang.exception and it will print this message not real age. After executing this, because I have last statement also left, end of the program, it will print end of the program. So not real age, java.lang.exception, then it will print followed by this message not real age and end of the program. Now let's run this program again and let me provide the correct age. Let's see what should be the output. So let's enter over here 65. Now when this method is called 65, age is not less than 0, age is not greater than 110. So what it will print? It should print good age, and after printing the good age, none of the catch block should be executed, and the last line, which is out of the catch and try block, end of the program should be printed. Let's check it. So good age and end of the program. So this is how the program execution works. Alright, now going ahead, so these two keywords, throw and throws. Throw is used with the method body and throws is used with the method signature. So throws is a keyword actually to replace or to provide an alternative for the multiple try and catch blocks, which can otherwise make our code too long and not at all readable. These two keywords are also used with user defined exception. That means when we want to create our own exception. So this we can create, instead of using the predefined exceptions, a user or a programmer can create its own exception. So how to create our own exceptions? Let's learn this thing. So as we have learned that when we are creating our own exception, it must extend the exception class. Why? Because exception is the superclass of all the runtime exceptions, and when we extend our own exception from the exception class, it comes in the hierarchy of the exception class. Now when we extend it from the exception class, we need to include either the default constructor or the parameterized constructor of the exception class. In the next so either we can have parameterized constructor or either we can have a parameterless constructor. It's up to your choice. So the first example, in the first example, I'm using the parameterized constructor. In the next example, in the next slide, I will be using the parameterless constructor. So I have declared a string variable and I have declared a parameterized constructor and I have initialized the variable. Then what I am doing, I am just using the toString method to represent the toString representation of the object. Alright, so try, I am printing the messages starting of try block, and in the try block I am throwing my exception and I am passing some message over here. Why message? Because I am using the parameterized constructor. If I am using the parameterless constructor, then I have to make this as empty. Alright, and then I am catching the exception. So here I am not using arithmetic exception or something array index out of bounds. Rather, I have made the object of the my exception class. Then here I am just printing something, and I am just printing the object over here. So print the object. So what happens is, starting of the try block, it will print. Now here, throw new my exception. So when this line is encountered, it will go to the catch block. Print over here the catch block. Then after this, I am printing the object. So for the object, the toString method will be called. It will print my exception occurred and whatever is in the string 1. Now in the string 1, since we have called this constructor parameterized constructor, this will be equated to the string 2, followed by this will print this is my error message. Alright, in this example I have created again it has a parameterized constructor. Okay, so instead of like equating some strings, you can use super keyword also to call the parent class exception. So here instead of age, we are using with the weight. So we have a method product weight, and it throws invalid product exception, which is my user defined exception. So if weight is less than 100, then this exception will be thrown and it will print this message. Then in the main method, I have created the object of this class. I have created the object of the class, and then I have called the method by passing some value. So what will happen? obj.productCheck, this method will be called. Weight is now 60. Since weight is less than 100, so this exception will be thrown. So when this exception will be thrown, control will be passed on to the catch block, and it will print caught the exception. After printing caught the exception, there is another line ex.message. That means get message method will be called. So when we use get message method, so in this get message method, instead of printing this default constructor string message, it will print our own message, which will be the product invalid. Alright, I have more examples. For this, let me just show you. I have created my own examples. Okay, so I have my own class, negative number exception, and I have this main class also. So what I have done over here, I have created my own exception class, negative number exception, and it extends the exception class. So in this case, I have included the two constructors, the parameterless constructor and the parameterized constructor. In the parameterless constructor, I am printing my own message, and in the parameterized constructor, I am just calling the parent class constructor. So let's see what happens over here. I just take a number from the user. Now I check if the number is less than 0, then the negative number exception will be thrown. So now because I have not passed anything over here, if you see in the example, in both the example, when I am throwing the exception, I am passing some string value over here. So that means in this case, when I am not passing any value over any string value over here, this means that parameterless constructor will be called. If I pass some string value over here, in that case parameterized constructor will be called. So that means I am calling over here parameterless constructor. Now if the number is less than 0, this exception will be called. But if the number is greater than 0, and it will go to the catch block, and then it will print the message. Alright, let's check it. Let's check it out. So let me just enter a number called let's say -1. Now since it is less than 0, negative number exception, my exception class will be called, And if you see in the brackets, I have not passed anything over here, so it will call the parameter less constructor and super. So what will happen? It will be called. So what will happen now? I have not used any parameter over here, so the control will go to the catch block e.getMessage. So in this case, since I have not used anything, so what it will do? It will call the parameter less constructor and it will print negative number from super. After printing this negative number from super, then it will print catch is used. So let's just check it. So negative number from super and catch is used. Alright, now let's try to pass something over here. Let me just write over here, enter a positive number. So in this case, what will happen? My parameterized constructor will be called. Let's just check it out. So if you have used only one constructor, for example parameterless constructor, and if you are using a string message over here, it will be an error. And if you are using a parameterized constructor and if you have left this bracket as empty, it will be an error. So but if you have used both the constructors, you can use any, and it's optional for you to to use both constructors. Basically you need to have only one constructor. So let me just try with this -1. Now what will happen? Since the number is less than 0, my own exception class will be called. So e.getMessage, what will be done over here? This constructor will be called. It will print the it actually should print the super s, that means the parent class constructor. This message will be printed. Enter a positive number and then catch is used. Let's just check it out. Enter a positive number and catch is used. So now parameterless constructor is not called, parameterized constructor is called. Alright, now in case of a positive number, if I enter the positive number, let's check it, what should be printed, how my program should execute. 12 maybe. So in this case, number is not less than 0, so no exception will be thrown, so it will only print positive number. So positive number is printed. Alright, I have another program also. In this case also I have used two constructors. It's up to you, you can use only one. And if there is a odd number is entered by the user, exception will be raised. So I am taking the number from the user. If the number entered is even, so I am printing the even number. Otherwise, if the number is odd, I am just calling the exception. Since I have passed some message over here, so that means this will be called, this constructor will be called. So let's just try to run it. Okay, and let's just try to run it. Now let's check what it should print. Let me just enter it. So what will happen? Since it is not even number, my odd exception will be thrown. So what it will do? System.out.println e.toString method. I don't have any toString method. So what this toString method will print? It will just print the class of the exception. That means it will print this one, my odd number exception, the class of the exception which has been used or which has been raised. Then e.getMessage, since I am calling the parameterized constructor, so it will print only this odd number. Let's just check it out. My odd number exception and followed by this message. So my odd class followed by the message and then this message is printed. Alright, for example, if I just leave it as empty, in this case parameterless constructor will be called. So it will print, this is an odd number. Alright, let's just check it out. So first the toString method is called. It will print the class followed by the error message. This is an odd number, and then it prints just the message, this is an odd number. Now let's just check if we enter an even number, what it should print. It should just print the number. Your even number is 2. So this is how you can create your own exception classes. Alright, going ahead. So it should extend the exception class, and we use the constructor of the custom exception class, copying the message that we are passing while throwing the message. So whatever the message was there in the parent class, it will be replaced by our own message which we have passed in the constructor. Alright, there are some rules. So let's just talk about the rules quickly. If you are calling a method that declares an exception, you must either caught or declare the exception. You need to handle it by using the try catch block or by using the throws method. So rule number 1, for example, if we have over here, so this is an example of the input output exception. It throws input output exception. So in this case, alright, so throwing an exception from the method. Now there is a method which throws input output exception. So in this case, when we are calling the method, since the method throws an input output exception, control will go to the catch block and it will print exception handle. After that, it will print the normal frozen. So it will print this the message. Alright, if the exception doesn't occur, the code will be executed fine. So if there is no exception, so in the method we are throwing the exception. So it will call this method, there is no exception, it will print device operation performed, and the last line is normal flow. So this was all about using the throw and throws keyword and how to create our own custom defined exception. So we have certain questions for the lab exercise. So my next lecture will be on the lab. We have certain questions. I will be solving the questions based on the exception handling concept. So thank you so much.